Welcome to Seeking Numina. I'm your host, Elise Wells, and this is the Sacred Places podcast. Today, I am interviewing Brett Hollyhead, the author of a new book from Pagan Portals called Sabrina, about the River Severn's spirit of place. And so today we're going to be talking a little more about sacred Britain, one of my favorite sacred lands in all the world, and specifically the Severn. So Brett Hollyhead, also known as the Witch of Salopia across social media, is a practicing Welsh Marches folk witch, workshop leader, and a public speaker at regular pagan-related events and conferences throughout the UK. He's a member of the Cwch Isarfes Roch Coven, Circle of the Red Serpent, alongside Mara Starling and Moss Mathy. He is also a member of OBOD and a guardian of the Doreen Valiente Foundation. They live in Wrexham, UK.
Welcome to Seeking Numina. I'm your host, Elise Wells, and I invite you to connect with the sacred wild within and around you through Numina, or sacred sites around the world, and the wisdom they hold. Together, let's remember the old ways, build relationships with land spirits, and dare to reach out to the fairies. The sacred wild is inviting you to dance in the moonlight. Will you answer their call?
I also realized I never checked pronunciation for your Instagram. Witch of Salopia? Salopia?
That's right, yeah, yeah.
All right.
Oh,
What
do you
does
know?
that mean? I've always wanted to ask, and it just now's the time, I guess.
Yeah, of course. It's a really funny conversation about that, actually, to be fair. When I was trying to pick a handle how to identify myself and find my niche on social media, I originally wanted to call myself the Witch of Pengwern, which is the old Welsh name for the kingdom that exists in my home, back going towards like the 6th and 7th century. But when people hear that, they automatically think, penguins? Why are you the Witch of Penguins for? As if they practice witchcraft. So I thought I'd take the Norman derivation, which is Salopio or Salopesbury, which is the same name applied to Shropshire. And it usually gets shortened down to Salop. But then I remember talking to someone who was living in France at the time. They told me that, that word is very, very close to describing someone who's a very disreputable person in the bed sheets. And I'm like, great, you know what? I don't slut shame. I'll be the Witch of Salopia and the Witch of Sluts. Why not?
I
So
love
yeah, that's
that.
how the name came about.
That's great. That's awesome. So, tell us about Sabrina. Who is she?
Oh, where do I even begin? So, Sabrina can be described as the goddess that presides over the River Severn. So, the River Severn is the longest river in Britain, and that stems for about 220 miles, stemming from the middle of Wales and the Cambrian Mountains up on Pumlummon Fawr, and that flows throughout the counties of the Welsh Marches, all the way down into the Bristol Channel, where she ends up into the sea. And throughout history, she is seen as this liminal tutelary guardian, as this ruler of the in-between of the liminal, a watery deity who has not only just been called upon for protection and the delineation of boundaries, but has been called upon by people to almost represent a hybrid identity between the people that don't necessarily fit in within English or Welsh categories. There's something of the ruler of the in-between. So that's kind of like the whole embodiment of Sabrina, a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, the quick Spark Notes version anyway. Yeah,
Mm,
I was and she has a Welsh name as well, right?
yes,
Hafren.
that's Hafren, yes, yeah. And exploring into the root of that word through etymological sources was a nightmare because she hasn't half changed her name or changed her shape. So yeah, it's very hard to confine her to one name, but it's beautiful because like water, water is fluid. It takes on the shape of what contains it. So yeah, Sabrina's our modern day version, but that name goes back all the way to the 2nd century. So has a heavy amount of
Wow.
history attached to it.
Yeah. Yeah, my work is mostly with land spirit connection and
Mm,
how to get to know the spirits of place. And river spirits are a massive, massive part of that. The rivers create the land,
absolutely.
So
Yes.
often people see them as separate entities. Somebody asked me that. They said, "Oh, you're an earth priestess, so I'm sure you don't work much with water." Excuse me.
Oh,
Good luck.
inseparable.
Exactly. Yeah, I always loved like Obot is big. I'm a big fan. I love the way they are always speaking about land, sea, and sky.
Yeah,
And that's the Triskel that we have to always be aware of when we're working with land. We call it land, but of course we mean as above, so below, right?
Absolutely. Water's that primordial element. It sustains and nourishes us. And without its interactions, without carving the landscape, we wouldn't have a land that we can walk upon. So, yeah, they're quite embellished together. You can't have one without the other. So, although I do describe Sabrina as specifically a river spirit, she flows into the sea, so she can be encompassed in that aspect. And of course, she treads upon the landscape where the stories hold on to her legacy. So, she can have that land aspect as well. Absolutely.
Yeah. Tell us about her myth because I noticed they sort of differ the way she's I want to use the word like iconographed, like the way she
Mm.
like her kind of emblem of who she is to the Welsh is very different from who she is to the English.
Absolutely. She embodies those really turbulent aspects throughout history when it comes to the English and Welsh, and anyone who knows their history books will know that is a quite a controversial subject, and it's still felt the ramifications today when it comes to Wales and being subjugated by Britain. But the two main stories that we see of Havren or Sabrina come really from either the Welsh sources from about the 15th to 16th century through the works of John Rhys and Bill Gwilliam, but we don't exactly know where those tales come from. So it's very much in the belief that it existed in the folklore at the time, and that may have an origin in a deeper past. Whereas the English version, or the version written by Geoffrey Monk, that many people will know, comes to us in the 12th century in his writings of a book called The History of the Kings of Britain. So we don't know exactly what stories were told about Havren or Sabrina from, the ancient Celtic times leading up, or even by the Romans even, because unfortunately we do have little evidence. But it seems to be those two stories that have been cemented throughout time as the main pivotal legacy of the goddess. And so the Geoffrey of Monmouth version is basically a story that's I like to describe as a medieval version of the Jeremy Kyle show. It's vindictive, there's cheating, there's murder somewhere. And Sabrina's basically the bastard love child of the King of England, Lochranus, and he fathers her with his secret mistress called Ystrildis, who is a Germanic princess. But unfortunately, the naughty boy is already betrothed to Gwendolen, and when she finds out, she's absolutely enraged. And so, hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. She kills her husband. I mean, he had it coming. But then she goes on forth to kill the mother and kill Sabrina by drowning them in the river for it to forever bear the name of the goddess as like a reminder of his infidelity. And when I used to read that story, it was really quite tragic. I used to feel so sorry for the goddess. It's not quite that, that numinous feeling of a Genesis story that you'd often ascribe to a deity. But then I look at it now and I feel like Gwendolyn's an icon. She's a slept-on icon. People should emulate that, especially in the times that we live in now with, everything going on in the political system. A bit more sacred rage is needed. But
Yes, absolutely.
absolutely. And on the Welsh side of things, however, it's a lot more naturalistic. It's beautiful. It relates very much to the hydrological cycle where we get rain. And that story comes from a beautiful and when I first read into it, I saw it as a very, pagan aspect. But then I look more at it now and I can interpret it through a queer aspect because it breaks the traditional gender roles that we describe, our society would describe. Because it starts off with a giant called Pimlamon Vawr, and he's presented as this masculine giant, but he gives birth. He cries, he's emotive because he's surrounded by these desolate lands that bear no life and bear no nourishment. And from his tears, he brings forth these three beautiful nymphs. So we have Havren of the River Severn, we have Gwy, or her sister Y, of the River Wye, and we have Rheidol, which is the River Rheidol, sometimes interchange with Ystwyth, depending which story you're reading. And as they grew beautiful and stronger, they yearned to be joined with the sea, and so their father clove them together and sent them on their ways down the serpentine tracks that are still traced today. Rheidol was the first to reach the sea. Gwy took her time through the tranquil landscape of South Wales. But Halfreda was a little bit different. She was infatuated by the kingdoms of people, and so she went there to bequeath her wisdom and to bequeath her blessings to the land with a warning that if they ever reproach or disrespect her, she would absolutely flood them to death. And that's very true when it comes to the river itself. She can give and take just in the blink of an eye. And as the sisters converge together and they tell each other their stories, they ride upon the clouds to revisit their father once again to start the whole cycle, bringing life and nourishment wherever they go. So it's a lot more beautiful than being drowned in a river by, your vindictive stepmother.
Yeah. And it's interesting too, the vindictive stepmother. It's an interesting twist on like what I think is maybe an older story. I don't know if maybe the Romans brought it with them, but the
Mm,
Greek story of Medea by Euripides. It's most famous in the play of Euripides, where her husband, it's almost like a sequel. It's like a spin-off of like the
mm,
original story of Jason and the Argonauts. And Jason is trying to like earn a kingdom, and so he's sent out on this quest, this impossible quest And one
Yeah.
of the things is he has to collect this golden fleece, and it's in Corcus, in Corinthos, and so she is supposed to Medea is the daughter of that king, and so she helps him get this fleece, and he brings her home. In
Mm.
her play, self-named Medea, it's been about 20 years. She's raised two children with Jason, and he's like ready to trade her in for a younger model. So he
Oh.
goes to another king and courts his daughter and is like, don't worry, my wife will be totally fine with it. Right?
Oh.
Sure. Yeah. And so she's not. So same thing. She goes, she actually does something very sneaky. She works with Hecate to do this. She makes a poisoned dress that when this new bride puts it on, it will like erode her skin.
Oh
So
wow.
she like it's awful. Yeah, it's very visceral. And so she dies. Her dad dies, the king, because he tries to help her. And then Medea actually kills her own kids. So it's a little bit worse. She kills her
Oh
two
my Lord.
sons because it's the only way to get back at Jason.
Mm.
So it's a really interesting the way, like you said, the sacred rage. I mean, literally, she calls on Hecate. She's like, "I'm a priestess of Hecate. What am I doing? I'm going to figure this out. I'm not going to sit and feel sorry for myself." So it's a really interesting look at sacred rage. And
Absolutely. Yeah. It wouldn't
yeah,
surprise me if it was imported over because obviously the Romans were heavily infatuated with the Greek stories and it kind of assimilated into their culture as well. It would not surprise me if it did come from that aspect because unfortunately we don't know where Geoffrey got it from. I mean, in his legacy tales he speaks of a book that was given to him by Walter of Oxford, the Archdeacon of Oxford. And this book was written in an ancient Brythonic language, so it could have been written in the old precursor of the Welsh, Cornish, and Breton language. But that book has never ever been discovered, so it's basically the medieval version of Trust me, bro, I have my sources.
yeah,
But
exactly.
it wouldn't surprise me, he was very clued up within the Latin literature and the vernacular culture of that, so, and obviously that has a Greek influence, so very much that influence can be seen there.
Yeah. And I was looking for sacred sites that are related specifically to Sabrina. And one of them that I found was in Little Dean, and it is a
Yes,
Roman shrine to
it
her. Have
is,
you
yes.
visited this place? Have you been there?
Very briefly, no, I have, but I've never actually been inside because a lot of the times I always come across when it's closed, unfortunately, because it's such a long distance down from me where I am in Wales at the moment. But Little Dean was fascinating to me because so there's two main temples that we can ascribe to the River Severn in that area, specifically in Gloucestershire because it's so close to the estuary, the Severn Bore. And the Romans feared that bore. They had great awe for it, but they were terrified because it could sweep away anything of their livestock and their livelihood. It's the second highest in the world, so a bit of fear is appropriate for that kind of that size and magnitude. And in those temples, so we have Little Dean, which Anne Ross, the archaeologist in the 1960s, described as a nymphaeum. And she believed that was the temple shrine to Sabrina, although we don't have any archaeological evidence of that name bearing in there to Sabrina or any statues that depict her. But we do have our like sacred stone heads that are very prevalent in Celtic culture. We have salmon depicted on there, and the idea that there are venerational pieces that people have deposited there in order to have their wishes heard by the nymphs there. And that's a really, really strong piece. So I hope that excavations take place more so in the future and we can hopefully delve into more of the history there. And then the next one is Lydney Temple, and that's the temple dedicated to the maritime deity Nodens. So he's a deity who people went to go receive healing within the dreamscape. So they'd go to his dormitory, be seen to by the priest and the attendees, and they would receive dreaming. They receive healing through the dreaming, specifically as well through the iconography of dogs. So we find a lot of disposition of dog statues. And so it's theorized that the dogs acted as that the liminal creature that would help people in the dreamscape within the spiritual world to heal the ailment, or they actually did keep dogs there because everyone knows that their saliva has that healing property to it. But when we look a bit further into the evidence, it always is pointed to Nodens. Nodens is this male deity of the Severn Estuary, and there was a figurine of a statue that looked feminine in form, holding a cornucopia. So some of the early theorists believed that there might have possibly even been a sacred union between Sabrina, who represented the river, and Nodens, who represented the Severn Estuary, who sees that kind of fertile aspect or that reproductive aspect when you look to the topography of the landscape. But I've always said that's a bit, I don't know, how can I describe it? It's a bit too simplistic for me because, when you look at it from that lens, it's always to do with fertility. It's always to do with this, that, and the other sacred womb magic, when really you're looking at a deity that has transcended gender binary. You're looking at something that has
Yes.
been, masculine in this form and is transformed and embodies all this. Because there are stories of bloody talking salmon, but no one likes to say that's Sabrina. But in my personal view, she coalesces to be all these beautiful things in one story and one union of the landscape. That's how I interpret it. Many different people might have different opinions on that, but I'm a queer person, and I always see that through the queer lens.
Yeah, me as well. Me as well.
Oh,
I feel
wonderful.
like I don't present very queerly, but yes, I'm in the how does my friend say it? One of my friends, she's a lesbian. She always calls it the alphabet soup mafia.
Oh, I like the Rainbow Mafia. That's my personal
Rainbow
favorite.
mafia. Yeah, I
Or the
love that.
LGBT.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, I like that. Never heard that one. Yeah, I open the same way. And the more I work with land, like, so my tradition of witchcraft is the eclectic fairy tradition. And we
Mm,
say eclectic because traditional fairy tradition has a lot more gendered stuff than we
yeah.
do. So we kind of have made it more our own thing. And we also don't have like, it's like so nuanced, right? These witchcraft traditions and our differences. But, um, one of the other differences is that we don't force anybody to work with just one god and goddess or just
Yeah.
this one from the tradition, which is like a little more traditional to do that. But yeah, like we work with the land and even parts that my high priestess uses, like so much like athame cup symbolism stuff. Like I just kind of nixed it. Like it's just not part of it anymore because the
Yeah.
land is when you actually work with land more, when you listen to it more, you realize that those are just things like all the stories really are for us to make sense of it, for us
Yeah.
to remember the energy and for us to have some expectation of what we'll feel at a given site. But truthfully, it just continuously transcends gender. And would you believe I actually just learned this a couple weeks ago, but I was doing some research on Dione, who is the quote unquote the female version of Zeus.
Mm,
And I was like, yeah, but she's older. Like, what do you mean female version of a god who we don't see written about for another 3,800 years? Like, what are you
yeah.
talking about? Female version. She's earlier, she's older. And it turns out that Dione was the earth goddess like of Gaia, similar to Gaia. She's a
Yeah.
Titan, quote, so she's like the second gen. Gaia, Uranos, they're like the first gen of gods in Greece. Then we have, a couple others. And Poseidon also was a female deity originally.
Oh.
And his name is in even now is Poseidonas, but that sounds so similar to
Mm.
what did you just said the name and I already forget, but it was similar. It was like Dona or Nona or
Oh
something.
yeah, Nodens, yeah.
Nodens, yeah. So it's like it's just interesting because I've noticed like in my land work too, there's like these rhythms. I use my frame drum a lot to kind of like be voiced with the land and also let the
Yeah.
land speak through it. And I notice sometimes there's these certain songs that come through and they have certain sounds. And sometimes I think that's why names sound similar. It's not that, the Greeks heard it first and then they told the people in Wales. It's more the
Mm.
land told the people and it
Yeah,
didn't really matter where
absolutely.
we were.
It's just filtered through the cultural lens. I know, I
Yeah.
love that. And I always say to people, I think when you restrict yourself through a dichotomy that has to be on one end of the spectrum to this, you miss out on all the beautiful complexity that, the earth and the spiritual realm has to offer you because, there's always been this human-centric, individualistic structure that we are the center of the world and the world revolves around us when really we're all part of this beautiful, beautiful mastery of the cosmos and the cosmos, infinite in its complexity and the way it manifests itself. And I think just to see it through gendered roles, it's boring. It's not colorful at all. I want queerness. I want vibrancy. I want the whole world to shake with the beauty of the sacred nature of rage and of beauty and everything. Not just bloody. This is sacred feminine. This is divine masculine. Oh, it just bores me.
Yeah, yeah. There's so much more going on. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Speaking of boring, the Severn boar.
Oh, that was cool. I love that. Oh, you
Wanted
got
to
me.
talk more. Oh man, I'm so cheesy. I
I
apologize.
love it.
Um, I wanted to talk more about it because it's not. I don't think I've ever been to a place like that, and it's. Have you been to it? Like, have you encountered it? What
I
what is it
have,
like?
yeah.
What's it going on? Like, I'm not a geologist. I don't understand why it's doing what it does.
It's
Like,
it's quite terrifying. So it's a tidal surge wave. So the way the estuary is shaped, it's shaped like a funnel shape, which creates the perfect conditions so that when the tidal waves come out, that force generates this wave back straight up the estuary. And seeing it, it's amazing. You see some really fabulous people surfboard on top of it. And I might all go to them because I would absolutely love that. But the Severn Bore has known to claim quite a lot of lives, so it is a risky place to be. But The way I describe is that you're in a very numinous space. It allows you just to displace this idea of I am human, I'm here and now, and you're taken back by the absolute power of nature itself. You're not here. You're in the presence of something that's always been here longer than you and always will be after you, and I am a part of it, both symbolically and physically as well. But also, I know my place, and I would never disrespect the river in that case, which is where the many folktales come from. And the Seven Boar really, it really features heavily in Welsh mythology as well. So in the texts of the Mabinogi, and even in older texts such as Culhwch ac Olwen, where the oldest and wisest of all animals dwells in that region, which is the Salmon o Llyn Lliw, who helps during the tasks of Culhwch to win Owen's hand. So the idea that that story transcends time a little bit into the bardic culture, so it goes into orality, that that place holds that sacred wisdom through expression of the salmon, has an indication to us that that place had a strong venerational aspect to it. In fact, there's folk tales where the Romans, when they came and they saw the boar, they absolutely cacked their pants because they were terrified. They didn't know what the hell was going on. And then there's also modern day traditions of folklore as well, where people believe that when the Druids or the native Britons escaped over the River Severn, they called to its power to, stave off the invaders. And the Seven Boar helped crash into the invaders. Hence why sometimes you'll find in Anglo-Saxon language they gave her the name Unla to mean misfortune, because so many people died in that river. So that's one little folktale we have.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, it's interesting. Like the I've never seen water in a violent way like that. But there's a spring that I recently discovered. Actually, it's near Delphi, sort of. It's about an hour's drive from Delphi. It's in that same
Mm,
county, and there's over. I think there's a total of 14 oracles within a 2 hour radius of Delphi. Like
oh
people think
wow.
Delphi's Delphi, but there were a lot because we're talking driving distance 2 hours. Of course, in ancient times, like these were warring states. Like it was crazy. Like in a single day, I visited two oracle sites, and each of them I found out. And I got to the second one. I said, "Oh, these guys were invaded by those guys."
Mm,
Like they saw each other as,
yeah.
that's the Greek way, unfortunately, ancient Greek way. But it was just so comical in a way to like realize like, oh, these are, they felt they needed their own oracle over here because this one was too different, but I could drive it in less than an hour.
Yeah.
Um, but yet the water, like it was the same thing. And it really, there's no other word for it, but to feel like you're seeing dancing or movement or life,
Mm,
the serpent of the earth, or there's so many ways that I think people categorize that. But the way the water, like at this spring, there's like this little whirlpool. I'll put a video in here of it. And it just keeps going. Like you keep thinking, am I still seeing that? But you are. And then there was
yeah.
another one a little further up. You could kind of walk along this spring. It had like a couple of paths that sometimes it was a bridge, sometimes it was just straight. Like I don't know who built it. It felt like no one had been there in a really long time.
Mm,
But it was so interesting because it was all flowing in different directions. And it's, okay, I bet you and I could go and talk to a geologist or a land scientist. I'm sure there's a different name for that. And they could maybe explain why. But to the ancient people, I can't imagine how much more powerful that was. And I feel like we can still get that awe. Like we're always looking for
absolutely.
answers today that maybe
Yeah.
surpass what's necessary to understand, but the power is real. Like that's still a dangerous place,
Oh,
the
absolutely.
bore.
Yeah, that enchantment is a universal language. So I'm always a bit miffed when it comes to people like, oh, science has proven this to be this proper way, all the ancient people were
Yeah.
wrong. But their folklore, their tales, their mythology, they are all sacred truths that exist within a different landscape to what we perceive to be the mundane. They are the language of the heart, and that heart renders true to what age that we live in. And it's the way that we perceive ourselves in the world. So, a geologist or a river expert can tell me, oh, this was created because of this. But that doesn't negate my spiritual experience because I see myself as part of the whole entirety of the world. And as well, I appreciate your contributions, and I really do appreciate to expand my knowledge. That doesn't touch my spirituality. It never will
Yeah.
because I am one with the river. And I think a lot more people, it's one of the things I talk about a lot more is that enchantment is the key to unlock a bit more of an environmental consciousness towards the river. Because I don't know if you know,
Mm.
like a lot of the rivers here in Britain, they're deemed nearly dead because of the amount of pollution and mistreatment that's been placed upon them. And it's all good and great, campaign. I do a lot of campaign, I do a lot of voice work, and I tell people the best ways you can save the river. But the one way to capture another person's attention is through enchantment, to tell people hey, there's a story of a goddess in this river who embodies all these beautiful attributes that we can relive out in the day-to-day lives. There's sacred stories of our ancestors. There's things that call to us that still have relevance. And if we don't save them things that we can relate to, they'll be lost for all time. And I've always said that enchantment is it's a medicine for us almost. It's we need to swallow it as soon as possible, and that's the way we bring back people to the river. Not necessarily the boring aspects of oh so and so is composed of this, but it's the stories that brings us together.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, the person of we're animists. Even the most
Yeah,
non-spiritual person is an animist at heart. We want to relate.
absolutely. Absolutely, you can see you can look to the die-hard scientist who doesn't believe in anything, who's an absolute atheist, but you'll see them stroking their car outside and calling them baby and saying how a good car
Yeah.
they are. Like you're an animist, don't tell me otherwise.
Yeah.
I've seen you.
That's great. Another sacred site I found is Blenheim. I said that wrong, I'm sure, but the
Yeah, blind
source
happening,
at
yeah.
yeah, at the source. Have you visited the source of the river?
Yes, I classify that site as like a pilgrimage site for me. So it is one of the most beautifulest walks that are featured within central Wales in Powys. So that's where I kind of grew up over the borderlands between Shropshire and a place called Drenewydd in Powys. And the source of the Severn was not too far away, to be fair. So you'd go past one of the first villages, which is, or town, shall I say, which is Llanidloes, where one of the statues is present, the very first town she flows through. And then further on, you're met with the Havren Forest, and oh, it's like walking into an other world itself. You have this beautiful carved out path, the river stems all the way, and you can swim in it all the way through it near enough. And then when you get to the breakneck where it's called, where the rivers kind of starts to separate, then you have this 4 hour ascent all the way up to the Pinlam Vawr. Because a lot of people get confused a little bit because they think Pinlam Vawr is just one singular mountain. It's not. It's a massive. So it's like five different peaks. And all the sources of the rivers come from there near enough. A lot of them are birthed from that this bogland basically. It's a marsh peat, and it's so eerie. It's so quiet. Not necessarily desolate, but it's very free from human activity because it forms part of the Elennith, which has been described as a desert in all the texts, but it's not really. It's just it's a very large, encompassing landscape, really. And it's beautiful. It really is beautiful. And in my research, when I was diving into it, I found that although we have the Three Sisters, there were other rivers being born in this region, and we do have them summarized in the poetry. Other sisters who may have been omitted from the tale. So we have Minach, Llyfnant, Dilas, and yeah, it is beautiful. I do go there as often as I can. Now my book's out, actually, my plan is to go to the source and go dunk the book, my very first copy that I ever received, in the actual peat bog where she starts from, and to have that with me forever.
Oh, I love that. I love that idea. My husband always is like, "What are you doing? But why?" But I will do that. I will bring books and tarot decks everywhere with me. One of them
Dunk them all
is
in and bring them back.
yeah, yeah, and I bring him to Delphi and I roll him in the dirt at Apollo's temple, and it's such an impressive in the true sense of the word. Like it
Mm,
impresses into the thing
yeah,
what you've done, and for you in this case, it's an offering back to say like
absolutely.
look the world is learning about
Absolutely.
you. Yeah.
That's always been my main it's always been my main role, to be fair. I've always seen myself as a person who never felt like I belonged, but the one stable force throughout my whole entire life was that river. I was born next to her in the hospital close by to the bank. I spent my whole entire life swimming in her as a child, and she is my all-encompassing mother, to be fair. And I thought the way I can give back to the world through both my voice and through my charity work, giving money to charities to help support the Severn cleaning litter, was to get her voice out, to explore into the depths of the mythology of the goddess, and to hopefully give people a little bit of an insight into how prevalent and important she was, because she seems to be a little bit omitted from the more popular Celtic pantheons, but she has always been there. She's played such a massive role within the formation of Britain in some aspects. But yeah, that was definitely a really pivotal moment for me.
Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful. I'm so glad
Thank
you were
you.
able to come on the show and share that with us as well
Oh
because
no, thank you for inviting me. It's an absolute pleasure. I love hearing the
yeah.
Greek perspective because I only know the odd little things, few things here and there on the basis of mythology, but I never looked into it properly. But hearing it, I don't know, I get this beautiful awe washing over me a little bit, and how beautiful the stories can be, and it's just wonderful to hear some another person's perspective.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I feel the way that way about Wales. Like I said before pressing record, like I feel so called to Wales and actually after like years, many years of being on the outside of Obod, like listening to Druidcast religiously. Dave the Bard has like unlocked
Yes.
so much for me since I was young. Like he's
Oh, he's
just,
wonderful.
oh yeah. And so this year, actually, I've been nomadic for a long time, and my husband and I actually relocated back to the U.S. along the Susquehanna River. She's been calling me for a very long time as well, and she's the oldest river in the world. She's the longest continuously flowing river in the
Mm,
world, and she's exactly 444 miles long. And we moved to the town where she ends. And specifically, our road, I don't know how I manifested this. I was really picky. I was like, if I'm going to settle down in a place, it has to be there. Our
yeah.
road is exactly, if you go down our road 200 feet from our home, it is exactly where she enters the Chesapeake Bay. It's her exact liminal place of transition,
Oh,
her exact
beautiful.
liminal place. And our road name actually in an old uh Native American tongue in Lenape, it literally means meeting place. And
Oh,
like
that's
I've
amazing.
start yeah, so I've now that I have a land to connect to directly, I'm starting my OBOD training in July of 2025. So
Oh, congratulations. I hope it really goes well for you. It's amazing.
thank you. It's for years it's been calling me, and every time my guides are like, but not yet, but not yet, but not yet. And now it's yet. And I think that's why I haven't gone to Wales yet, because I mean literally it's the Gorset, it's Yola Morgana. Like I've
Mm,
studied all these things. Like I'm ready to really meet them now.
yeah. Oh, brilliant. Honestly, you won't be disappointed. It's so beautiful over here. And I've always said if you ever like traverse over the River Severn, she always has this different energy depending where you find her, whether she's in the beginning of Pinham Vawr or whether it's in the middle lands between in the Welsh Marches with Shropshire and Worcestershire. But then when you go to Gloucestershire and she fully matures into that large estuary into the ocean, there's so much you can connect to in so many different ways you can work magic and wonder with her.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so excited. And the same goes, come to Greece anytime, and I'll
Oh,
introduce
I
you.
need to. I'd love to.
Yeah,
I
I'll
always
introduce you to all the land spirits and river spirits. We don't have a lot of healthy rivers either, unfortunately. The
mm,
government just fills them in, just fills them in. What, like we have a freshwater shortage in Greece, and they continuously fill them in. But there's
it's so
one,
bad, honestly.
it's insane. It is like insane. So, but there is one that the source of the river is about an hour from actually where I am right now, recording this, and it's amazing. I've been to that source. I've been able to bathe in it. I was there on such a hot day, like it was maybe 40 degrees
Mm,
Celsius, and still it was cold. Like you stepped in and you were like, oh my God, this is freezing. Like it was very cold.
worth
So
it though.
oh yeah, it was amazing. So yeah, oh yeah, so many sacred waters.
Oh, I'd love to. It's on my bucket list. I would love to go over there one of the days.
Yeah, keep me posted. So tell everybody how they can keep up with your work and buy your book, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm pretty much all over social media, to be fair. I always like to compare myself to black mold. I spread everywhere, and if you get a bit too close to me, I might drive you a bit loopy. But you can find me on TikTok, Instagram, all under the Witch of Slopia, Blue Sky, Threads, Facebook. And then I also do have my second book, hopefully coming out next year. It's still being in the process of written. It's a very big one at the moment. And that is The Magic of the Welsh Marches. So that's about the witchcraft enchantment from the Celtic Fringe, exploring all different pieces of bardic magic and Welsh magic that extend beyond the Mabinogi and folklore and all sorts of witchy, lovely stuff. And if you do want to buy my copy of Sabrina, so it looks a little bit like this, I do have a copy with me. You can
Oh,
buy it
yay.
from, oh, thank you. You can buy it from all places that sell books online. I think it's Barnes and Noble in America, places like that. You can either buy it from me if you are local in the UK. But yeah, online, I usually am everywhere. You can buy it wherever sells books, really.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for being here, Brett. This was
Oh, thank you for
lovely.
having me. I've really loved
And
it.
keep me
Thank you.
posted. I'd love to share more when you come back. Like feel free to come back when your next book is coming out as
Oh,
well.
thank you so much. I'd love to.
Thank you for seeking Numina with me today. Join me at patreon.com/Elise Wells to support this show and get access to a library of rituals, exclusive videos, meditations, and more. To learn more about my upcoming retreats, book a tarot reading, or learn with me in workshops, classes, or mentorship, visit seekingnumina.com.